I think this community is a little misled about the holding the authorities accountable line of bull. Filming the police on the street may hold them accountable. If they screw up, then there is an independent record that can't be lost, or they can't forget to have turned on their body cameras. So in that kind of sense, where you're actually dealing with the people you're trying to hold accountable, and where the interaction is something that may not have a record, or maybe or is short enough, and also is short enough that you can effectively record from beginning to end, that may have accountability implications. Going into a public building and recording some secretary or clerk, you're not holding the authority accountable. The authority in that building is in an office somewhere in that building, behind a closed door, where you can't get to them. There is no general issue. Like there's nothing I could have filmed in that sheriff's department that would have held any authorities accountable. That's not my goal, or at least not in that particular situation. If I was interacting with a police officer, I may want to record it to keep the police officer accountable for his actions and his words, because I'd have a copy of them for later. But 90% of these videos that you see where auditors are holding the post office accountable, really you're holding like some post office worker accountable who is being put into a position where that worker is uncomfortable and you're wrong, typically. As far as asking is concerned, asking is just a generally polite way of doing things. You start with an ask, and then if you have the right, or if you think you can get away with it, then you demand. And then if you have the right, or you think you can get away with it, then you take. So where I got the picture, that sweet, sweet 1891 request for a subpoena to be served, I didn't have a right to film. I didn't have a right to be. But I asked. And if the police were so bad, if they were so scared of cameras, they wouldn't have let me back there to take a picture, would they? You got to think about that. Like if they're truly scared of cameras, why did they let me back there to take a picture? In a court, you don't have a right to film. You have maybe a right to ask to be able to film, and maybe the judge is limited on the reasons why he can deny your right to film, depending on local, state, whatever laws. But you don't have an unrestricted right to film. You can't just start filming. You don't have that right. So a good place to start would be to ask. And then maybe you could try demanding it, but I don't know how far that'll get you. If you reach the point where you attempt to take it, then you are potentially going to be incarcerated for it or fined or otherwise inconvenienced by simply being arrested and having to deal with all that nonsense. So asking is always a good thing. If they say no, all right. So here's a hypothetical for you. They let me take a picture of their letter. If someone else goes in there who has a negative view of the police and asks to do the same thing, and they say no, then maybe you can sue them because they have an unwritten policy that is arbitrary and capricious, or is it may be reasonable to not allow people back there or to only allow certain people back there, but it's not viewpoint neutral at that point. Huh? Huh? So having someone ask to go back there actually paves the way for future possibilities. I'm not suggesting someone go back there and try to take a picture just because I did it, but I mean, it sets a precedent. So I wasn't saying that filming the police you're required to have permission, because you're not. If you're in public, if you're in a place where you have a right to be, and where there is no other where isn't a rule otherwise forbidding filming that is legal, then you can film the police. If you're in a place where you're allowed to be and you're allowed to film, you can film the police. You don't have to get their permission. At least in every state so far that's made a determination on it, you have that right. Would that permission promote more or less accountability? Well, again, um, I I think filming the police does promote accountability because it's a short duration kind of thing. A police interaction will probably be less than an hour. You should be able to record for an hour, and it's not something where you need to know things that are going on behind closed doors because you're holding the police officer right there on the scene accountable. You can see everything that he's doing. But in general, again, like I said, where the people who are making the decisions are behind closed doors in offices where you don't have a right to be or film. But if you don't have a right to be there and you can't see them, then what are you going to do? You're not going to use the camera to hold them accountable. And filming a secretary is not going to hold an agency accountable. Have you watched Live PD? No, I haven't. I'm assuming it's going to be like Cops. They have permission because they show the good side of the police. Okay, they've never showed anything bad? Interesting. Well, if it's a TV show, they've probably worked out contract terms with it. It's not like they probably have a contract with whatever police department they're filming. I'm making assumptions. I've never seen Live PD. I don't really care. How about I make an HBO show called F the Police? How much access can I expect? Well, again, it would depend. Um, the government doesn't have to allow you, and they may have a contract where they get to review footage and everything, and well, they're probably going to have a contract because they're probably not going to want you like leaking case details or things like that. You probably can't publish anything till after the whole trial process is over and everything. So you're going to have a contract with them just to protect the rights of the accused. So it would depend on your contract, I guess, as to how much access you can expect. You mentioned media circus is one reason cameras should not be in courts. Well, that was Estes v. Texas. Many victims and suspects on Live PD want no part of the commercial enterprise. Right, but okay, so it's a balancing test. When you're looking at between two different rights, your right to due process versus your right versus somebody else's First Amendment right of freedom of speech, it's going to be a balancing test, and so the court's going to look at a lot of factors, and one of the factors is where you are. If you were in a traditional public forum like a street, well, then the First Amendment is going to have much greater priority in that particular location. If you're in a courthouse, then the Fifth Amendment is going to have a much greater priority in that location. So people in public, or even people like in the privacy of their own home, if the police come in, they're being filmed, right? The police have their little body cameras on and whatever. Um, and then I am sure that the Live PD people need to either redact the person's face, maybe their voice as well, or they need to get permission. And how many victims and suspects on live PD want no part in the criminal enterprise? Scott Blevins. How many? Many? Okay. Many times the police force them to provide money making content. No. The police are arresting them, and coincidentally, they are being filmed at the time of arrest. I think that is wrong. Oh, what happened to no expectation of privacy in public? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Relax. Um, right and wrong are opinions, and I think you are well within your rights to have the opinion that you think that is wrong. I don't necessarily have an opinion on it. I think that if the show redacts the person's or like blurs out the person's face and alters the voice or something like that, makes it so the person isn't identifiable, then I don't particularly see a problem with it. Um, but it's your opinion that you think it's wrong, and I can't say that your opinion is wrong. So I also hate it when auditors film people in welfare offices and post offices when they ask not to be recorded. Yeah, yeah. It definitely that definitely paints auditors in a negative light. I I can definitely understand that. Uh, I have thought about that, and I share your feelings on that. I My reasoning is though that I don't necessarily think that those people. I don't necessarily think it's immoral for those people to be filmed, but I think it is very impolite, and I think that it harms the cause. It alienates people from wanting filming in public. So I am still forming my position on when to record and not. Okay. Um, but again, that would be your opinion. Certainly complex, you say. Yeah, that's sure. I'm sure asking permission from authority to record authority will result in a huge positive skew for them. Well, yes, it will. If you are polite and you ask politely, they are going to be very accommodating because that is human nature. That is just human nature. There's a reason why when you go into stores, they have their greeters. Hi, how are you doing today? Welcome to whatever. Can I help you with anything? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why salesmen tend to be upbeat, polite. Um, they smile. They make eye contact. There's a reason for all these things. It's because it's human nature. It's the way we are. We are social animals. We are there's a biological basis for us being able to read the body language of other people and respond to it. And there are prisoners dilemmas, things like that, where you know we're kind of hardwired to work with other humans to show respect when respect is given and to show politeness when politeness is given. It's really hard to be mean to someone when they're being super polite. That's why nobody likes passive aggressive people who hide their intentions because you can read their body language and you know that they're being a jerk when they're like, how are you? Oh my God, you're looking so good. And you're like, I know that you're just being a jerk, but you're covering it with your words. That's, it's body language and everything like that. But if you go in, if you walk up to a police officer instead of pulling the monkey approach where you're swearing like a psych ward patient at these officers when they have done absolutely nothing to you, if you go in with that kind of attitude, you're going to get the behavior, the response that Monkey is getting. That's human nature. You are dealing with humans. Ah, they're police. They should have a. Well, great. Yes, they should. But what kind of reward do they get for being nicer to you? If you're nice to them, they will be nice to you. I I've been pulled over before. You know, you're just nice to the officer. You're like, yeah, officer, what's up? Oh, your tail light was out, or your license plate wasn't properly illuminated. Oh, really? I am so sorry, officer. I was not aware of that. You know, I'll get that fixed. Okay, well, I'm just letting you know. And you know, you look nice, you act nice, you make eye contact, you're honest and sincere, and it's amazing. It's amazing how willing they are to not be assholes. Now, will you run into officers who are just having a bad day? Absolutely. Again, they're humans. Humans act like humans, but you don't. Generally speaking, the rule is that assholes don't make it far in any particular field where you have to deal with people constantly. If an officer is a constant asshole, that officer is going to get constant complaints, and sooner or later, the department is going to get tired of having to deal with it or pay fines or discipline him for inappropriately dealing with the public, and they're going to let him go. Again, I'm not saying there aren't problem officers, but generally speaking, the officers that you're going to see are going to respond well if you're polite, open, honest, sincere with them. But back to the original point. I know I've looped quite far. The original point is this: I don't believe that filming in general in public is for accountability. It's for seeing what the response is, seeing if it's an appropriate response. Sure, I can buy that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can buy it. I don't think it's for accountability. Filming the police when they're in public and dealing with the public, absolutely, that's for accountability. But in general, auditing a building is not for accountability. I've never seen any sort of accountability arise from it. And you don't need to film the court. The court, anything of any import in the court is going to be recorded. There's going to be a court recorder, or a court reporter, I should say, creating a transcript. It's just you being in the gallery filming is not going to add anything to the situation other than, maybe you'll be able to have like something to remember a trial, like the people who were at the OJ trial maybe took pictures, and great for them, but that was also a media circus. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.